preview day here on the Sacred Playgrounds podcast, we're walking you through Holy Ground, a guide for summer camp staff. This book is a combo of a devotional and a guide designed specifically for summer camp staff this summer to accompany them through this journey that they're about to take. So we're walking you through the 3 different sections of this book, and we'll tell you more about how to order. Welcome to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast, where we dive deep into theology, research, and practical wisdom for camps, retreat centers, and other key ministry spaces. I'm your host, Jared Rendell, camp enthusiast and part of the Sacred Playgrounds team. This podcast features Dr. Jake Sorensen, a scholar and practitioner who's helping leaders think more deeply about outdoor ministry and the impact it's making. Wonder with us what God might have in store at your Sacred Playground. Hey everybody, welcome to the playground. Here we are. Hey Jake.
Hey Jared.
How are you today, my friend?
I am doing well. I'm a little frazzled. There's a lot going on.
That's a good problem to have. Sometimes when we were talking a minute ago and you're running through a lot of things, some of which is literally running because you have a marathon coming up.
Yes, that is part of it, and that's the self-inflicted wound, I guess. But I do that to keep my sanity as well. I find that running is a good meditation and prayer time for me. It also gets me outside, and it makes sure that I take a break from the other things, and it keeps me in shape. So that's nice. So yeah, I enjoy that. But yeah, it was like this week has been so busy. I was like, how am I going to fit in a 20-mile run? And so I just had to kind of squeeze it in.
Yeah.
And I'm also coaching track. I'm coaching middle school track right now, which is really fun. I love working with the kids. It keeps me in front of the young people, and just helping them succeed. It's a great level to coach because they're always getting better.
So there's how you get your run in. Just keep up with me and you're fine, kids. You'll be ready.
Well, that's the funny thing, because I do that alongside the other training. So sometimes I'm getting back from a long run, and then I have to go sprint 200s with these kids. So good thing I'm not coaching high school.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, speaking of sprinting, like you said, there's a lot going on. So give us sort of a state of what's going on.
A state of what's going on. Where to even begin? This is one of the busiest times that I can remember since I left camp. I mean, that's the funny thing. Like when the people at camp right now are like, yeah, you don't know the half of it. I do know. I have been there. But this is one of the busiest stretches that I can remember in a long time. And that's exciting because there's so much going on. There's a lot of camps that they're preparing for a summer right now of ministry. And we're doing Effective Camp Project and the Power of Camp Project through 3CA. We're doing those 2 big projects this summer. We've got over 30 camps participating in the Effective Camp Project, and that's really exciting. So trying to make sure everybody's on board and ready to go as they try to hire their summer staff and plan their programs. So there's that going on. And then I'm doing some projects with other camps, trying to figure out kind of strategic planning sort of stuff. So there's those things going on right now. And right now I'm actually in the Twin Cities because I am teaching a camping ministry course at Luther Seminary, which is a lot of fun. So by the time this goes live, the course will be done because it's an intensive. And so we blitz it sort of like staff training, and we just do all day for multiple days.
Sure.
And so I got that going on, which is really exciting and fun. I love to teach. And so looking forward to that. And then we've got Holy Ground. And
yeah, we do.
Talk about a shotgun project and something that really gets the energy going. That's been a lot of fun, and it's also been a lot of work. So
and a lot of quick work. To your sprinting analogy right there, we've had to run fast with this thing. So that's what we're talking about a little bit today. We're going to talk about Holy Ground today. Give a bit of kind of a preview for folks. Because we said yes to this thing. It came up, and for some reason we said yes. And my hope and thought is that was simply some divine intervention, that camps and these summer staff and the folks that are leading them need this, and maybe even need it this summer. So so we said yes to to pulling this together. So can you tell us a bit of that origin story? How did this come up? We've got this resource, this guide for summer camp staff that we're putting out right now. And so how did this come about?
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, like it's so fun to think about this. I mean, you talk about it being a God thing, and that's absolutely right. I mean, people sometimes say serendipity or things like that. I say no, it's the movement of the Spirit. It's God at work. Um,
Amen.
we did this big project, the Camp and Church Leadership Project, last summer, and it was a long time in coming because COVID delayed it. But looking at the camp staff experience, and what makes the camp staff experience tick, what are some of the key elements of the camp staff experience, and that culminated in that survey last summer of the summer staff members. And you remember we talked about that project and
Mm-hmm.
the summer camp staff experience and what the summer camp staff were going through last summer. And we really found a lot of interesting things about where they were in their faith journey, and how they were struggling with mental health concerns, and some of the camps struggling to retain their staff. And so as we presented that to the camp directors, we did two webinars for the camp directors, and people were kind of noodling over this stuff, and it really got some ideas flowing. And so we in the Sacred Playgrounds team had talked about this, prior to releasing all the data, and saying, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could provide a resource for summer staff, just to help them out, during the summer, maybe with some devotions in it, with kind of a handbook sort of feel to it. And we're just like, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull that off. That's a lot. We got a lot on our plates
Mm-hmm.
already. And then after this webinar, a friend called, a friend who's been in camping for
Mm-hmm.
decades. We served as program directors at the same time, at separate camps. And Gretchen Bachman is her name. And she recently transitioned away from the camp that she had been working at for years. She was up at VLM
Yeah.
in northern Minnesota, and she called and said, Jake, I heard about the results from the survey, and I just got to thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could provide something to help the staff to walk with them through the summer, some sort of a guide, I don't know, a devotion, something. And I said, wow, there is a lot of synergy here between what
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about and what I'm talking about. Because she's like, I'm going to do this anyway. Like, I want to make this happen, because she's so passionate about caring for these young adults, because she's been
Yeah.
doing it for so many years, and really wants to contribute. And so we said, okay, let's do it. And we just made this decision. And this was like at the beginning of March. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so summer's coming here. And so she had a lot of energy behind it, and said, I'm going to reach out to some people and see if we can get some contributions. And so she reached out to dozens of camp directors, program staff, and summer camp staff from last summer and a couple summers previously. And so we've gotten all these different writers, dozens of
Mm-hmm.
writers, to do these devotions for this resource. And it's really become a labor of love, but also, as you said, it's been a bit of a sprint. But I think we're all loving it, and we're all having fun doing this.
There we are. Yeah, it's been fun to put together. One of the things that I'm most intrigued and excited about this project, as we've seen these devotions come in, part of what they're putting is kind of their time, right? I was on summer staff in '98, and I was on, I was program leading in the early 2000s or further back sometimes, whatever it might be, and the variety of roles and across denominations. And so there aren't a lot of things with camp, right? We get to camp and we love our place. We love our thing. We love our, one spot that we're in, and we end up in this little bubble. There aren't a lot of things that connect us across camps, across timelines and time periods. And I love that about this, that the idea that summer staff from across the country and across denominations are sharing in something that they are going through together. I love that idea, that this connectedness across these
It's
people.
awesome. And people are so passionate about doing this. It's like, I mean, these are folks, a lot of them are professionals at camp right now, they're struggling to find summer staff. They got planned staff
Mhm.
training, and they said yes to this. Yes, I can do this. I can turn this around in a week. No problem. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, a lot of people were a little overwhelmed, but I mean, the number of people that said yes to this is really inspiring, and it really confirms that this really is a God thing. That this is something that is coming together in a unique way for the staff at camp this summer. That people say yes, this is needed, and yes, I want to help provide this. And it's been really fun, and as you said, like reading through these, and you feel like you're getting all these different voices and perspectives and advice, from people who've been there and they've been through it,
Mhm.
and they want to support and nurture um, the young staff members who are going to be at camp this summer.
Can you say more about why this matters? Can we say more about why did we say yes to this? The passion was clear and and coming in, but in terms of why this really matters for these summer staff, why this really matters for, and maybe even for this particular summer, why did we feel like, yeah, we'll sprint, we have to do this?
I think it really comes out of the Camp and Church Leadership Project findings, and some of the things that surprised us or caught us a little bit off guard,
Mhm.
and just felt like this is something that we can and should respond to.
Hmm.
So, for example, the mental health crisis. We knew that there was a mental health crisis in our society, but to see it so palpably in the summer staff, you know, what was it, 2/3 of the summer staff had one of those red flags that we had in terms of mental health
Mhm.
coming into the summer. Like they really need some support. And then also kind of this crisis of practice in terms of faith practices. Where are they at in their faith? Where are they finding faith resources? It's been a tough several years for all of us in the church, and especially for these young adults. I mean, they've had so many losses, right? I mean, some
Mhm.
of them lost prom and graduation, from high school,
Right.
and then they've been online for classes, or maybe they've taken break years because they can't find a job, or they're just trying to figure out what to do with their lives. So they're already going through a lot in this life stage. The COVID-19 pandemic, and all the struggles around that has just exacerbated all of these challenges that they're going through. And so, is there a way that we can walk alongside them and resource them? They're going to be walking alongside each other this summer. They've got leadership staff that are going to be the ones there on the ground
Mhm.
ministering with them and to them. But to provide them something, a tool. I mean, that's essentially what we're talking about here. It's a small thing, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. But it's a tool. It's a tool to be used during staff training, but also to walk with them and guide them through the summer. And so, structuring it as a daily devotional is something that they can go back to again and again, get inspiration, get encouragement when they're feeling down, and the encouragement that comes through scripture every day,
Mhm.
through prayer every day, and through the inspiring words of fellow staff members, people who've been there before.
Sure. When I think about the foundational why this matters, the thing that comes to mind, and it's like, hey, big secret, the linchpin for summer camp is the staff, is the summer staff. Like, all directors and program directors listening to this right now are just nodding there, like, of course. But the secret sauce for camp is the staff, and so to focus first on supporting them, supporting their experience, is huge, huge to the thing that matters most, the direct contact with these kids, to support them and take good care of them, makes so much sense, and makes so much sense right now.
We have to care for these young people. We have to care for them because of what you said, like it's the linchpin for camp. Like we need to care for them so that they can care for the campers. And they're also up and coming leaders in the church. We need to nurture them and their life of faith and their leadership abilities, um, because their experience, and the impacts that we make on them, that's a part of what we do at camp. You know,
Yeah,
the
big part.
campers are sort of that's our primary concern, but most of our camps, rightly so, focus on the staff experience as just as important of a focus as the camper experience.
Yeah. All right. So preview time. That's some of the why and the how this came about. So let's talk about what this looks like. Let's talk about what as you know, as folks go through this, there's some different parts, and so we just want to share everybody kind of a verbal preview here, and this will accompany some sample pages and things like that, so that you can get a sense of if you're, you know, we've already actually got a bunch of orders, but if you're wondering what is this going to be like, you know, I need a good preview. We're going to talk through that right now, so you can really understand and start to think about, okay, how you might actually use this. So, Jake, let's start that walk. Let's give them a preview. What are the main parts of this
Yeah.
guide?
So we look at it as a guide. It's something that we want them to interact with. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not just a dead thing on a page. This is something that is going to be used, and so even the cover is
Right.
meant to be decorated
Scribbled
and
on and
used
colored on.
and
Yeah.
personalized. And so there are pages throughout that are going to be spaces to journal, to draw, to write reflections about the week, things like that. So it's interactive throughout. The way that it's structured, kind of in if you think of it in book form, because that's what it comes as. Um, there are three parts, and so the first part is this introductory section, this welcome to camp, some wisdom about the camp experience and about the summer staff experience. And so each of these things is designed to be quickly consumed. So each of there's kind of modules, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. So each of them is going to be 2 pages long, quick, easy. You can lay it flat and you can see the whole thing right in front of you. And so there's going to be descriptions, and then there'll be discussion questions for each one of these things. Now, these things can be used in multiple ways, just for perusal by the summer staff as they're thinking topically about, you know, what about this? How do I make camp a little bit more of a safe space? So we've
Mm-hmm.
got, you know, those on each of the 5 fundamentals, for example, and then other pieces like that. So they can use them as reference. It can also be used during staff training, and I really encourage camps to use this. You're already going to be talking about relational interaction at camp. So why not have them look through together the section on camp is relational and how
Right.
to live in community at camp, or the conflict resolution section, which we had written by a professional mediator wrote that section. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got some folks that have contributed to this as well. So you can use it during staff training, but then also throughout the summer. Um, Staff training doesn't end, you know, when the first campers come. We
Right.
have to keep coming back to these things over and over throughout the summer and keep equipping our summer staff. And so these are things that you can use: Sunday staff meeting, end of the week staff meeting. Just go through something, talk about this, maybe midweek at a staff meeting. How can you go through some of these things and say, what can we learn from this? And what can we emphasize this week or right now in terms of learning? And so that's the first section and how it can be used. So again, used personally by the summer staff as sort of a reference during the summer. Definitely during staff training, it's sort of designed for that to be used as modules during staff training. Um, and then it can also be used, you know, midsummer as you go throughout the summer. Some of the things that we cover. So I mentioned like the conflict resolution one. There's
Mm-hmm.
also a whole section on staff mental health. And so if you listen to our last podcast from Joy Hensel, she provided this resource and some ideas for how to work on staff mental health and how the staff can take care of themselves and each other. There's a module on reading and interpreting the Bible at camp. And
Mm-hmm.
so kind of how do we read the Bible? What are some of the parts of the Bible? How can we interact with it at camp? There's one on the power of prayer. There's one on tough questions and how to deal with doubt and making sure that camp is a safe space for doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's one on the summer camp staff experience itself, and how we can make sure that that's a positive environment for the folks. There's one on being called to ministry for those who are feeling like they might be called to professional ministry. There's all these different sections at the beginning.
Yeah.
2-page modules, right? So that's section 1.
Perfect. One of the things as I look down kind of our outline and of this content that I appreciate is that this isn't just stuff that we thought was neat. This stuff has come from a couple things. One, conversations and experience that both this team has had and conversations with other leaders about things that would be most helpful. 2, the research that's been done, right? I mean, you can see the the 5 fundamentals of effective camp that are exactly in here. So these are things that across time and across denominations and all of this that are based in research that has been, has happened and is still happening. And so it's got really solid foundation, both in
Yeah.
experience and in the data.
And we include some of those data points in there so that the staff can interact with them a little bit. It's not, we're not having data tables or anything, but
Right.
A few of those things in there, it is based on the research at Sacred Playgrounds. And, what are we doing here? What is the philosophy of camp? What is my role this summer? That's what the emphasis is in the first section. So as we continue through, the second section is the main part of this resource. This is the daily devotional. And we structured it as a 12-week daily devotional with the thought. So there's 2 weeks that are structured as kind of staff training weeks. And so some of you, you do a 1-week staff training or you do a 10-day staff training. That's fine. You can kind of pick it up where you start because it's there. The days are labeled Sunday through Saturday. All right. So all the weeks start on Sunday. They end on Saturday. And then it's got in the center of it, it's got 8 weeks that would be used kind of during summer camp. So it follows the rhythm of the staff experience throughout summer camp. Now, of course, some of you have 6 weeks. That's okay. We didn't label them June 1, June 2nd, June 3rd. We labeled them week 1, week 2, week 3. Those are terms often used at camp. So if you have 4 weeks of summer camp, that's okay. You can use weeks 1 through 4. But it's designed to kind of follow the staff experience. And so, we got all these different devotions, and some of them are really encouraging ones. Some of them are, let's get going, let's have a great summer sort of ones. And some of them are, you're tired right now and we're with you. We know what you're going through. And here's some inspiration to kind of get you going on this Wednesday of week 6. When it doesn't feel like the week is ever going to end, and the summer, you've got how many more weeks of the summer left, So that's kind of how it's designed, and the thought that went into this as it walks through the summer with these staff. And so we know that different camps have different lengths of their sessions, right? And so, some have 4 weeks of summer camp, some have 6 weeks, some have 8 weeks, some have 10 weeks, right? The way that it's structured,
right.
2 weeks are designed for summer staff training. 8 weeks are designed for summer camp. And then there's 2 weeks, additional weeks that are designed for kind of the post-camp feel of it. But again, if you have a 9-week summer camp program, obviously you can, those can be used while they're still at camp. But that's kind of how it's structured. There's 12 weeks total. So it's kind of 2, 8, and 2, if you kind of think of the structure that way. So it's an 84-day devotional, walking with the summer staff through this incredible, challenging, nerve-wracking, sometimes joyful experience, and trying to accompany them through that in the voices of dozens of people who have been there. Some of them 30 years ago, some of them last year. So it's a lot of wisdom and a lot of different voices that they'll be hearing throughout the summer.
Love that. So each week becomes, I like that you use the word accompany there, right? So each week they've kind of got this partner, because there's a little bit of chunk that wraps each week, kind of an intro page, some space to write then, like you were mentioning earlier, right at the end. And
and it's not a journal. Like, it's not designed as a journal. Like, if people are journaling, they already have another journal, but there are pages, a couple each week for them to write reflections. And my hope is that this becomes something that it becomes a living document and is used throughout the summer, so they keep going back to it, and it becomes a keepsake of this particular summer. And some of my thoughts from week 1, what I was hoping for the summer, and then reflections at the end of the summer as well. So it should end up being a great keepsake for the staff members as well.
So we've got our kind of welcome to camp and these resources and tools at the front. We've got the bulk, which is this daily devotional. What's section 3?
Section 3 is leading the staff members in their ongoing journey. And so some of the resources in section 3 are designed for use at camp. So there'll be some prayers that are written that they can use for different situations at camp. There will be reference guides for like, where do I find this in the Bible? What's a good psalm to use in this particular circumstance? So it'll have some things like that. It'll also have an ongoing Bible reading plan. And so we want these young people to continue on with their faith practices after camp. That is essential. And so giving them something that they can use, if they don't have another Bible reading plan that they're already using, they can keep using this resource in the weeks and months following camp, and it'll guide them through some daily scripture reading. And so we hope that'll be helpful for their faith journey as well. And it'll also have some kind of now what? Okay, camp is done. Now what? How do I connect? And really encouraging them to connect with congregational ministry, with campus ministry, with small groups, with prayer partners. Making sure that they're bridging that gap from camp into kind of the rest of the world, because it sometimes is jarring as you come from this incredibly rich, intense environment, faith-centered environment, relational environment, and then you kind of go back into the rest of the world. You say, okay, now what do I do? How do I make sense of this? And so it's really important to connect them to community and make sure that their spiritual needs are being met.
And there's the book. There's Holy Ground. Super exciting. That preview is really helpful, Jake, to walk through that. So those that are wondering kind of what's this going to be like? What can I expect? So we'll include some sample pages so they can see some of those things. That will be linked in the show notes, or if you're catching this on some social media, whatever it is, we've got some sample pages. And then Gretchen's gonna come on here and tell you just kind of the overview quick and where you can order. You can find all this at sacredplaygrounds.com is the easiest spot to just go click, and right on the homepage, you can do your pre-order from there, right? Because that's the plan right now, Jake. They pre-order now, anytime between now and May 1st, because we need to know.
Yeah, because one of the things that we're doing with this, we're having a local printer do it. We didn't want to just do it through Amazon and have this bound book. We wanted to have something that was spiral bound that you can lay flat, or you can turn the pages back on. And we also wanted to use a local printer. That's kind of one of our values, is to use some of the local folks. And so we've got this local, literally mom and pop shop that's doing the printing for us. And so we need the pre-orders so that we can get the orders filled, and then we'll get them out in time for staff training. So it's pre-order only this year, and that's the plan.
And they'll ship, and then they'll come, and you can pass them out during that staff training and dive in together. So, Jake, thanks. That's a really helpful walkthrough. Folks, of course, if you have questions in addition to hearing this and seeing the sample pages and things like that, you can reach out to the team. Find all that right at the website and contact us, and we're happy to tell you more. Because this labor of love, like you said, has been really fun, and felt like a call, a straight call to do something like this and do it right now. So we're happy to sprint for a while.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Let us know if you've got questions. We'll see you next time on the Sacred Playgrounds podcast.
Hey, camp friends. Sacred Playgrounds has a brand new resource designed just for your summer staff. It's called Holy Ground, a guide for summer camp staff. At its core is a daily devotional that accompanies your staff through the summer, from the intensity of staff training to the exciting early weeks of programming, on through the challenges of midsummer, and then the bittersweet exhaustion of those closing weeks. The devotion includes wisdom and reflections from dozens of current and former summer staff from multiple Christian traditions. It will also help staff make the transition from summer camp back to their home and school environments. Alongside these devotions are pages devoted to some of the most pressing issues facing your summer staff, including how to address tough questions and doubt, interpreting the Bible at camp, addressing mental health challenges, and key findings about the camp experience from the research at Sacred Playgrounds. Order by May 1st to get your copies in time for staff training. This resource is available at sacredplaygrounds.com.
Thanks for listening to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. This episode was produced by me, Jared Rendell, and featured Dr. Jake Sorensen, lead researcher and founder at Sacred Playgrounds, LLC. Our theme music was written and performed by Taylor Wilson. You can find his original songs wherever you get your music. Learn more and connect with the Sacred Playgrounds team at sacredplaygrounds.com.